CloudDB, shaping your new normal.
Hello everyone, welcome, and wherever you are around the world, to the 2022 APEC OCI Days by Apaco UC. This is our first year having a dedicated OCI event, and it's our honor and privilege to run this event with the support of 15 Oracle user groups and Java user groups in the Asia Pacific region. Please remember to register to as many sessions as you can. This way you will be able to have access to our replays until June 15, 2022. I would like to say thanks to all Oracle user groups and Java user groups that made this event possible, and also to our sponsors, the Oracle ACE community, the DevRel team, and your main sponsors, Oracle Corporation and CloudDB. Now for today's session, Migrate AWS RDS MySQL Aurora to OCI, MySQL Database Services, MDS, by Saikumar Mandadi and Marie Haran Tayagarajan. Hopefully I said that well. If you have any questions to them during this session or any questions in general about the presentation, please feel free to use the chat window in your right lower corner of your screen, and the presenters will be answering your questions at the end of the presentation. If you have any technical issues or problems during the presentation, please use the same chat window and I will try to help you the best I can. Now, without any more further ado, I'm going to leave you with this amazing session by Saikumar and Hariharan. I will unmute you too, and then you guys can mute yourselves depending on who is speaking at the time. Thank you, Saikumar and Hariharan.
Yeah. Thanks, Francisco. Thanks for the great introduction. I hope you can hear me, Francisco. I am audible to everyone.
Yes, Hari.
Thank you. Okay, today is our session is on Migrate AWS RDS MySQL or Aurora to OCI MySQL Database Services MDS. So this session will be presented by me, Harihan Tyagarajan, and my colleague Saikumar Mandadi. Let us go to the next slide. Yeah. So a small introduction about ourselves. We are part of Infolob Cloud team, and Infolob is an organization which is founded in 2009, and we are a strength of 350 plus employees. And we have offices all over the globe around our headquarters in Dallas, Texas, USA. And we have offices in Dubai, Hyderabad. And our offshore development is on Hyderabad, Visakhapatnam, Chennai, Mumbai, and Delhi. And slowly we are growing up on all the global footprints. Our main solution is business applications, cloud migrations, digital innovations, converged infra, about Exadata. We do managed services on Exadata and all OCI components and cloud services, and including the staff services. So coming to the crunch part, where we got nominated and we won Outstanding Partner Teammate Award for the year of 2018, 19, and 20 for Oracle Technology Partners, and we are one of the top 25 Oracle managed platinum partners in North America. And we have ISO certifications, and we are proud to say that we are a partner of Oracle Platinum Partner Cloud Standard and Google Partner, VMware, AWS, and Microsoft Azure. So, today we are going to discuss about MySQL database services, and we are going to have a small intro about the Heatwave, how the Heatwave will help MySQL database services, and we will at the last speak about a small agenda on how to migrate your database, Oracle MySQL database or Aurora database to OCI. Yeah. So this MySQL database services. Yeah, MySQL database service, MySQL database service is an Oracle cloud infrastructure. Is an Oracle cloud infrastructure, and it is only MySQL database service inbuilt on Microsoft Server Edition, Enterprise Edition, and it is 100% built and managed and supported by the MySQL team. Okay, so let us focus on the three major categories that makes MySQL database service better than the other MySQL cloud offerings. The first one is ease of use, security, and then the enterprise ready. So let me deep dive in each sections. The first section is MySQL database service ease of use. So uh, the first point which comes into mind is how when I'm moving to a cloud, or what are the benefits of moving into a cloud, what are the advantages of moving into cloud. So the first thing comes into mind is fully managed services, that is automated time consuming task. So every configuration aspect, security, patching, backup, and monitoring is everything is automated. The next thing is DBAs today have a overload of daily mundane administrative tasks, like they are responsible for many databases and their performance, security, availability, patching, etc. So these things can be automated, and it is really difficult for the DBA to focus on innovation and addressing the demands on the line of business. So what does MySQL database service has an advantage over the part is they can automate all these time consuming tasks so that DBA can improve productivity and focus on higher value tasks. Okay. The second thing is instance provisioning. So instance provisioning is nothing but when you don't need a server, or you don't need an on-premise server to install your MySQL database addition to it. So this can be installed over a click of button. So we have DB systems in OCI, which where you can install the MySQL on the DB systems, and this will get instantly provisioned, and you can use it after a couple of hours or less than an hour. And it comes up with the latest features. So the latest feature is nothing but it has a fast-paced delivery of delivering the latest features to the modern applications. So whatever it is, XDev or any latest release of API or MySQL shell, document store. So every latest features are directly coming from the MySQL team to the OCI part. Sorry, can you go to this next before slide? Sorry. So yeah, the next slide is about the security. So we have many data protection laws, or we can say that protect your data, or there is a risk of data breaches. So to reduce the risk of data breaches and to protect your data with encryption and masking firewall, and there are more things to priority is data security is becoming a top priority for all organizations. So MySQL database service can help you to protect the data against external attacks as well as the internal malicious users with a range of advanced security features. Those advanced security features also helps to meet the industry and regulatory compliance requirements, including your global data protection and PCI and HIPAA standards. I'm on to the next part, enterprise ready. MySQL database service is built on a highly reliable and secured platform, and we have a 24/7 support from the MySQL team. And enterprise ready is nothing but it has an integration with Oracle technologies like Oracle Data Integrator, Audit Vault, Container for Kubernetes, etc. And this MySQL database service is the only public cloud built on MySQL Enterprise Edition, which includes 24/7 support from the team that actually build this MySQL, and it doesn't come with any additional cost. So there are following features like available in the default MySQL database services, like MySQL Enterprise Scalability, and then data encryption assist, native backup, OCI monitoring, OCI built-in native monitoring. So these are the additional benefits of going into the MySQL database services. Yeah, let us go to the comparison. What is there in the MySQL on-premises with the MySQL database services? So when you compare the MySQL on-premise, we can see the scaling up is not possible or not feasible. When it comes to backup, we need to schedule the backups and take care of the backups in these storages, and we need to secure, and for security purposes, we need to secure patches and then upgrade it on a quarterly basis, and then provision to configure. So whatever task which is related to database and OS, security patches, OS installation. These things can be automated and it is readily available in the OCI MySQL database services. If you can see, the OS security patches has been applied on MySQL database services DB systems, and the storage, there is no storage purchase or maintenance. Everything is taken care by the OCI cloud. And on the far more better component is the data center. So you don't need to provision a data center, and the cost of those data centers comes in huge numbers. So it is readily available. The rack space and everything is power. Network is taken care of end to end by Oracle OCI. So you don't need to put any investment. So your MySQL database service is readily available within an hour of time or couple of hours. I would like to speak more about MySQL DB systems at OCI. So when you want to opt in MySQL DB systems at OCI, you have two options. One is a standalone. The standalone is a single instance MySQL DB system where you can go to the OCI and you can go to the database systems and you can click the standalone and it will be configured in the click of button, and this will take a lot less than an hour. The next one is high availability. When it comes to high availability, there is a point in case of failure in case of standalone DB systems or MySQL DB systems. So the high availability comes in a picture where you will have a primary on a different availability domain, and then the secondary databases or the secondary MySQL databases will be having it on a different availability domains, and it can be hosted across regions also. So one more thing is, if your cloud region has only one availability domain, you will be hosting these particular machines on different fault domains. So this automatic failover to a secondary instance, if the primary instance fails, will be taken care. And these replications, whichever you do on an on-premise system, is not more the same. So the GUI, we have a GUI single-click configuration where you can configure the replication between the primary and the secondary, and it will be a real-time replication between the primary and secondary instances. The next one is about the Heatwave. Heatwave is another given advantage from Oracle OCI, and it is currently available with Oracle OCI. Heatwave is a standalone DB system which can be built on top of your MySQL database, and it helps us in more analytics part of reporting. Can you move to the next slide, Sam?
Yeah.
My colleague will go from here. He will speak about the MySQL database service and this advantages.
Yeah, thanks, Hari, for the details. Am I audible?
Yeah, yes, you are audible. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you are audible.
So now I'll be talking about MySQL database service with Heatwave. Suppose that we'll be discussing about the migration steps. So how to migrate from AWS to MDS. So Heatwave, it's an in-memory query accelerator. So this is exclusively available with MDS. So this is an OCI product. So Heatwave is an optional service. So you can use MDS without the Heatwave, but without the MDS you cannot use the Heatwave. So this MDS with Heatwave, it performs both transactional and analytical operations in high performance without having the need of separate ETL. Okay, this is a single database where you can run both the transactional and analytical operations. So this MDS comes with the Heatwave. The Heatwave is an optional product, as I said. So if the database, if your requirement is to run the analytical queries, so you don't need to have a separate ETL database. So all you can do is like launch a MDS with Heatwave, and you can run the analytical queries here. So this is a high performance database engine. It's a single MySQL database for both your transactional and analytical operations. And all your existing application work without any changes. So you don't need to do any changes to your applications. you can straight away use the Heatwave. So this is an extreme performance engine. So when compared to MDS without Heatwave, with Heatwave runs hundreds of times faster than the MySQL without Heatwave, and this is proven. So what are the benefits of Heatwave? So as I said, it's a single database for both OLTP and OLAP. So this is there is no need to, no complexity and the no risk of having a separate ETL processes. So you no need to do any changes for your existing MySQL applications or queries. So you can use this Heatwave in the real-time analytics. So what do you mean by this? So let's say if you have your MDS database, and so let's say we don't have Heatwave, then you need to propagate the changes to a separate database. So if you don't have Heatwave and if you maintain a separate database for the analytics, so you need to manually propagate the changes to the separate database. But with Heatwave, you no need to do that. So the data changes are propagated to Heatwave in real time. So the real-time data is available for analytical queries. If you do any changes in your MDS database, the data is propagated in real time to the Heatwave as well. So you no need to load separately in the Heatwave. This is a one-time operation. And what is the other advantage? It's a high-performance analytical query processing. So it runs the analytical queries very fastly, and it's a massive parallel processing algorithm. So you can run the queries in parallel with a massive workload. So these are some of the statistics. So these are derived from the TPC workbench. So if you compare MySQL with MySQL and Heatwave, so the performance, the query execution time is drastically improved in the Heatwave. So if you see the MySQL, it took 1700 seconds for the query execution time. And when you execute the same query in Heatwave, it executes within 4 seconds. So that's the drastic improvement. That's the advantage of Heatwave. And if you compare the same with Aurora database, Aurora or AWS MySQL, RDS MySQL, so it is 30x faster. So if you can see the query runtime, query execution time, and the data preparation time. So you need to have 5 days to prepare the data for analytics. So whereas in the Heatwave, it only takes 4 hours to prepare your data. Okay. So here you can see the 1100x faster in the Heatwave. So it took 2.5 hours in the Aurora database. So whereas it took only 8 seconds in the Heatwave. And also not only the performance benefit, you will also have the cost benefit. So it may take more than 120K on the Aurora with the same configuration. The same configuration takes only 37K if you go with the Heatwave. So this is the advantage of having the Heatwave with MDS. So now let's discuss about the steps to migrate your database from AWS, whether it is RDS MySQL or Aurora, to OCI MDS. So OCI, so MDS, you can launch it from the console, OCI console. If you know about the Oracle database, Oracle DB system, the similar way you can launch the MDS DB system from the console. So these are the high-level steps on how to migrate your database to MDS. And the first step, you need to install MySQL shell. So MySQL shell, it's an utility. So this helps your database to export your database in an EC2 instance and to import the database in a OCI MDS instance. So first, you need to install this MySQL shell utility in an EC2 instance in AWS and also on the OCI compute instance. It can be a Linux instance or it can be a Ubuntu instance, as per your wish. So then you need to have a separate object storage bucket in OCI. So this the purpose of this object storage bucket is to store the backup files. So the moment you run the backup on EC2 instance, backup of your RDS, so the files will start getting stored into Object Storage Bucket in OCI. So then you need to export your RDS MySQL or Aurora database, and finally you need to import the backup from the object storage to MySQL database service. So let's discuss on each and every step. So you need to install this MySQL shell, either both in EC2 and OCI compute instance. These are the steps. So there are two methods. Either you can use apt repository to install. So these are the steps required to install. So you need to run the apt-get install MySQL apt config. You need to download the config first. You need to update the config, and then you can install the MySQL shell. apt-get install MySQL shell. So the other way is to install using the yum repository. So just remove if any older community releases, just remove the community release, and then you can install the MySQL shell. Yum install MySQL shell. So this comes with the MySQL shell. So using this MySQL shell, you can connect to your RDS or MDS instances. So this is how you create an object storage bucket. So if you go to the OCI console and click on storage buckets, you can create a bucket name with these options. These are the default options. So the purpose of this bucket, as I said, is to store the backup files from the RDS instance. So you need to so before running the backup on AWS RDS, so you need to prepare your Aurora or MySQL database for the export. So what you need to do, you need to, on the EC2 instance where you install the MySQL shell, so you need to generate a key files. So this is how you generate the key files. So once you're done with this, you need to create an OCI config file in the EC2 instance. So if you observe this config file, you need to give few details for this instance to authenticate to the object storage. So what details you need? You need to give the OCID of the user. This is the OCID of the user, OCI console user. And this is the fingerprint ID. So you can get the fingerprint ID from the above key files generated. So this is the location of the key file where you generated in the step 1. And this is the tenancy OCID. This is the tenancy OCID. You need to get it from the console, Oracle Cloud Console. And this is the region where we hosted. It can be any region, Mumbai or US or UK. So these details are mandatory. So without these details, your EC2 instance cannot authenticate to the object storage. So these are mandatory. So in the step 3, you need to connect to the MySQL shell. So this is how you connect. So once you give MySQL sh, so you will be in the prompt of MySQL shell. Then you can you can connect to the admin user of your RDS instance, admin @ the connection string and the port number. So once you give this, you're now connected to your RDS database. And from there, you can run the util.check for server upgrade. So what is this? So this check for server upgrade, this will check for the compatibility. Let's say if your RDS instance is running on 5.7, and if you want to upgrade it to you want to restore this database to 8.27 or above. So if you run this package, it will check if there are any compatibility issues, or if any fixes you need to perform before you run an export. It will display the list. So based on the recommendations or errors or warnings, you can take the necessary actions before you start the actual database export. So then in the step 4, once you're done with this and if there are no issues, you can start the export. So before starting the export, you can do a dry run. So once in the MySQL shell, you need to give this package util.dump instance. So this util.dump instance will dump the entire RDS instance. So this will take an export of the entire instance. If you don't want to dump the entire instance, you have two more options. So you can either dump the schemas, or you can dump a specific tables. So instead of instance, you can replace it with schemas, and you can give the list of schemas here. Or else you can specify the dump tables, and you can specify the list of tables here to be exported. Since here we are migrating the entire instance, so we have given util.dump instance. So this is the I will discuss about the options here. So this is MDS POC. This can be any name. So this is just an identifier for your backup files which are going to be exported. And the OCI config file location. So this OCI config file should have these entries. So without these entries, it cannot authenticate to your object storage bucket. So we have given the config file location here. On the object storage bucket name, we have created a bucket here, right? So this bucket name you have to specify here in the OS bucket name on the object storage namespace. So for every OCI console account, you'll have an object storage namespace that is unique to every account. So you can get the namespace from there and replace it here. And these are the number of threads to run the backup, just like parallelism. And dry run true, this will only displays the information, what schemas and what tables are going to be exported. So this is not the actual run, this is just a dry run. So just to make sure if everything is normal. And consistent consistent is false. So by default consistent is true. So this consistent option this will suppress if any additional privileges are required. And OCI MDS is true. So since you are migrating to OCI MDS, you need to set this option to true. This is only available with OCI MDS. And the compatibility options. So we have a lot of options can be defined in this compatibility. Let's say if your code has any definers, if your source code has any definers, the definers will not work in MDS. So you need to suppress the definers first and then export the database. So that's why we have given the strip definers and the strip restricted grants. So there are some restricted grants in RDS or Aurora. So you can we need to suppress the grants before taking an export, else we cannot the export fails. So once you're done with this dry run, and if everything is normal, you can run the actual export command. So you just need to remove dry run instead of true, you replace it with false and run with the same parameters. So this command will take an export of your entire RDS database. Okay. So once you're done with the export, if you log into the OCI console and go to the object storage bucket, so you can see the list of objects exported, all the JSON files and all the SQL files. Okay, so from here we need to import it to the MDS instance. So how do we import it to the MDS instance? So in the similar way, you need to connect to MySQL shell from the compute instance. So once you are connected, you need to give load dump package util.load dump and MDS POC. This is the identifier for the backup files on the config file location. So you need to give your config file location and the bucket name, namespace, and the threads. That's it. So you don't have much options when doing the import. See, whatever the bucket name you give, it will automatically identify all the backup files inside this bucket, and it will start restoring it to your MDS instance. And you have other option also. This is one of the ways how you can import it using the CLI. So if you don't want to use this option, we have other option. So in the create DB system page of MySQL, so on the bottom, if you go in the data import tab, so you can specify the par URL of the object storage bucket. So for this bucket, we can actually create a par URL, and you can mention the par URL here. And if you click on create, this will automatically create your MySQL DB system first, and then it will start importing your backup files to the MDS instance. Okay, so this is how you do an migration from AWS to the OCI MDS. So if you have any questions, you can drop in the chat box. We'll try to answer that.
Thank you so much. I'm here waiting to see if there's any question coming to the chat box. Also looking if anything comes from Facebook. Let's give you a few seconds.
Okay.
If anyone want to do questions offline, or you have any questions, you're watching the replays, you want to ask any questions to Saikumar or Hariharan, you can basically also contact them directly by the emails on the screen. We have a question from Laurentius. Why migrating AWS to MDS is an upgrade?
Sorry, let me check the question.
Why migration AWS to MDS is an upgrade? That's one of the questions, the first question.
Yeah, it's not an upgrade. I mean, it's not a direct physical migration we are doing. We are just taking the export of the database and importing it to the MDS. So this is only the logical, export and import. But there are few parameters where these parameters are not supported. So some parameters are supported in AWS, which are not supported in MDS. So to check that level of issues, we are running this upgrade command. So this will check the compatibility issues, and it will display prior to migrating, exporting your database, so that you can fix and proceed with the upgrade.
Thank you so much. Also a question for Babu. Can you explain the consistent option again, please?
Consistent option. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so this consistent option, by default it is false. So if the consistent option is set to true, the locked there are some locked tables privilege on all the dumped tables. So if you let's say if you set it to true, so all your exported tables are in locked state. So to unlock all the tables, you need to have the reload privilege. So for that purpose, to avoid this locking tables mechanism, we are giving the consistent as false, so that your tables exported will be in unlocked state. You can import it without any issues.
Thank you so much. Babu say thanks. And looks like there's no more questions coming through. I'm just looking if anyone has any other questions. In the meantime, I want to say to Saikumar and Hariharan, thank you so much for taking the time to share your experience and knowledge with MySQL, especially this migration between AWS and OCI, and with the Asia Pacific and global community. And it's excellent to see professionals also from MySQL starting to engage even more with the community. That's fantastic to see.
Yeah, thanks, Francisco. Any other questions, or else we can wrap it up?
Yeah, I think so. We can wrap it up. Looks like it's no more questions coming through. If anyone has any questions, you can see on the screen the contact information of Saikumar in Hariharan, and then you can basically contact them directly with questions. Sometimes people don't like to do questions on the public forum. They prefer to do it privately. In that case, thank you so much to everyone. Please take care, be safe, and we have only one more session left to end this conference on this month. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Thanks for attending. Bye.
Thanks, Francisco.
Thank you. Bye-bye.